Hello and welcome to the Untranslatable podcast. We are here today to talk about a new and exciting holiday, Juneteenth, and I'm sure there are plenty of Americans out there who it's just now on their radar what Juneteenth even is, and I'm sure a lot of you folks out there around the world may have never heard of Juneteenth before, but it's a very significant new holiday in the U.S., and it has some very interesting historical roots, which we'll talk a little bit about today. And I'm also hoping to talk about, since it is a new holiday, discuss how some folks have been celebrating this holiday around the U.S. to mark the first ever Juneteenth signed into history. So I'm very excited to talk about this topic today, and I could not do so without my awesome co-host and my partner in crime. So what's going on, Jared?
Hello, Chad. Happy belated Juneteenth. You know, we're late. I'll admit it. I guess it would be belated even if we weren't late.
True.
But, you know, no matter how hard you try, Chad, you cannot get me to work on Juneteenth weekend. And that is a commemorative weekend. And I am slightly offended that she said, I don't care. You got to work anyway. We got a podcast to put out.
We got to get this podcast done.
But listen, my fellow blacks, be proud. I stood my ground and I told them, hey, we'll record this on Monday and we'll put it out on Tuesday. And you'll be okay with that, Chad. And he stood down, and it was a good moment for the blacks everywhere. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, of course. The reality of it is, you know, I had family in town, and what I've known but has now been confirmed is that I really, really do not enjoy being a host. And but especially a host where people are staying with you for multiple days, you know? It's such a stressful situation.
What makes it stressful, Jared?
You know, my some people were staying with me. I had no food in the fridge to begin with. I had nothing food-wise to offer them. And I was told that it's best that you have maybe some sort of salad items on hand. And in my head, I'm like, I don't know what you eat. That's so broad, you know? Like, what if I get tomatoes and you're like, ugh, tomatoes? It's like feta. Oh, what am I supposed to do with carrots? Who puts carrots? And it's like, you know, it's like, what, am I just supposed to have some grilled chicken strips ready to go for you? Like, this is a freaking hotel? You know, it's like, what do you expect from me? And it's like, also, I don't know what you eat. You know, I don't live with you.
That's fair.
People, like, what people eat is so broad. I wish there was a way where I could be like, you know, like, I could be like put down a list of everything you want and I'll get it.
I mean, you could just ask that, but most
That's
people...
true, but that doesn't seem very gracious host-wise.
Yeah, but a lot of people, too, like even when I go visit my sister down in Ohio, she always asks me that, and I'm always just like, well, whenever I come visit, a lot of the random stuff you have already there is usually fine. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like I need anything special. I will say this, though,
but
Jared,
you're rarely staying for multiple days because you live pretty close.
No, we usually stay for 3 to 5 days or so.
Okay. So yeah, that makes so you yeah okay. But they also but you're also staying with your siblings that have a family. You know, it's a little different. So they comport their lives in their fridges a little differently than me, a single person.
And it's fun to eat some of those kitty cereals again once in a while, you know? I can't
exactly.
complain.
No kitty cereals here, unfortunately. And so it's just I don't like it. You know, I thought it might be interesting. I wanted. This is kind of also why I brought this up. I couldn't figure out fully how to form this, and I wanted your help. I thought it would be fun to do an episode in the future, something about like expectations of being a host, or like when you're going to someone's house.
I'm texting you that right now. That
like
is
what you're
great.
Supposed to do. You know,
and that
shoes,
changes
no
from culture to
shoes.
culture.
Yeah, expectations.
I love
food.
that idea. That's great, Jared.
That's
stay
just something
tuned, folks, because that'll be a fun one.
Something I organically thought about because over this weekend I was just like, I am not prepared for this. I was this is such the only thing I was prepared for is if they wanted to get like drunk. Like, yes. I can do that.
Yes, dude, I kind of felt the same way while I was camping with my nephews and my sister and my sister-in-law, because I asked, you know, what do you want me to bring? And they're like, well, we have they have a legit camper. So they have a decent, I mean, it's not a huge fridge, but it's a hell of a lot bigger than my 2 coolers and
a lot more
van.
storage in general.
And so, exactly. So then they said, well, you know, we have the food covered, just bring some snacks. So I brought some snacks, but I kind of felt, like all I had was beer and snacks, and that's it. So I felt like, yeah, I can get you drunk and I can feed you some snacks, but that's about it.
Yeah, and so every time I was asked, like, hey, or do you have, and I didn't have it, I was like, oh, God, I'm such an idiot. I'm so bad at this. This is so embarrassing.
Well, it was your first run of being a host at your new place, though, too. So that comes with some challenges as well.
Yeah, but I've hosted humans before in a place I've lived in. It's the first time doing it in a place I've owned. Sure, owned. I don't even own this place. I hate saying that because it's not even true. But
the bank owns it.
Exactly. But I've lived in places before where I've hosted people. In leased rented places that I've hosted people, and I wasn't prepared for it then either.
Right.
But yeah, it's just I think that would be a good episode because I'm never prepared for it. And I feel like
I
you
love hosting too. It's so funny.
I was about to say I feel like you would love that, but I can't imagine you. See, I can't imagine you being prepared for people's food needs.
Oh, hell no. Well, I'm too bad of a cook. I feel like it would be offensive for me to cook for them
but I'm talking but even if you're not cooking for them, like having the right foods in the fridge for them over like 3, because like that was a big struggle for me, was the food aspect. I had no some go-to foods for them in my fridge for them to like make a quick lunch or something.
Yeah, I mean, for me it'd be lots of sandwiches. Love my smoothies.
Smoothies.
Let's see here. What other foods would I offer up? Well, I mean, you got to have your standard American breakfast on deck, Jared. That's easy. Bacon, eggs, some toast, maybe some hash browns.
Also, I think the problem is of my immediate family, I am by and far the least fancy.
Okay.
So they're all way more like when it comes to cooking utensils or food, and that they just know like exponentially more than I do. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just like, I don't have that weird like random one. I can't even think of a tool that they would be asking for. We're like, no, I don't have I can't think of anything because I didn't have it. That's why.
That's fair.
But anyway, I think that would be a fun episode to do in the future.
I mean, you do have a grill, though. Please tell me you did some grilling, right?
That would have been a good idea if I had that. What I could have done is like pre-marinated some chicken the night before.
That's what we did when we went camping, dude. It was great. Yeah, we had chicken and steak fajitas pre-marinated.
It's a good idea.
It was great. Yeah, I mean, and you have a grill, don't you?
I have a grill.
Right? Yeah, so I mean it's hard to beat.
That's a good idea.
Hanging out outside. It's summertime.
You've got me thinking. Let's not ruin this next episode.
That's true. A little teaser.
You've got me thinking.
Well, I got some exciting news for you. Well, more so for, I guess, our listeners, because you already know. But when our episode drops on Monday, not this one, but 2 episodes away from now, I will be in transit back on my way to Deutschland.
On the road
That's
again.
right. Yep. I cannot wait, Jared. I cannot believe it. I'll be honest, Jared, I was really, really skeptical that I was even going to be able to make it over there in time for my good buddy's wedding. And then, the day they announced Americans are allowed to enter, Europe, the EU after I think it's like June 25th. I was like, all right, booking my flight.
You were there for it.
Yep. So.
Lufthansa, I imagine?
Yes, sir.
Of course.
Use those. No other... Well, actually, I didn't use miles, but getting some more miles and, going through Lufthansa because it's just the fastest, easiest, direct, not the cheapest, but,
Sure.
Time is money, Jared.
I get it. Time is money.
Time is money.
It's funny because you are kind of one of the cheapest people I know, but we don't have to get into that again. But now you're like, listen, my time is worth a lot. I
That's
only fly the best. Hey, I want to spread a little love. You mentioned this. I guess you kind of mentioned this at the top of the show, but this was my shout out. So how dare you? No, I'm kidding. The fact that the Biden administration signed a bill making Juneteenth a federal holiday. Mm-hmm. My first thought was, does that mean we get a day off? Is that what that means?
It's a federal holiday, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think this time what day was the bill actually signed into law? I don't remember now off the top of my head. But basically, I think some people did get Friday off.
June 17th.
Because it fell on a Saturday this year. We did not at my university.
No, we did not either at my university. So yeah, President Joe Biden signed legislation Thursday, establishing a new federal holiday commemorating the end of slavery, saying he believes it will go down as one of the greatest honors he has as president. Biden signed into law a bill to make Juneteenth or June 19th the 12th federal holiday. The House voted 415 to 14. Let me know who those 14 are. I could probably figure
Ted
out
Cruz,
if I really cared.
Marco Rubio.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Frog guy.
Mitch McConnell.
Thank you. Yes.
we call him Turtle Guy over here.
Yeah, Turtle.
But,
that's what I meant.
Still,
That's what I meant.
Yeah, probably him. Let's see here. Who else? Yeah, there's a bunch, but yeah. I agree with you though, Jared. I mean, big ups to the Biden administration for signing this into a holiday. The crazy thing though, Jared, about this whole Juneteenth episode and this holiday is that Juneteenth is one of those weird things that is now a legitimate federal holiday in the U.S., yet will not be taught in probably, I was reading, anywhere from 12 to 15 different states. And I'll be honest, Jared, I did not know anything about Juneteenth until after college, actually. So even in college, I wasn't educated about Juneteenth.
Yeah.
I
bet you, I imagine, because, there are a couple states out there that don't celebrate some various federal holidays, like MLK Day, for example. I wonder why. But take the day off, if anything. Who cares if you I feel like that's a strong statement of racism, almost.
You're
to
letting
be like,
the Dems win if you take
no,
the day
off.
off.
We're gonna work.
We're gonna work twice as hard today. We're gonna show them people.
This is not a day to stop working. We're gonna work. You got to imagine that these states that are not allowing the teaching of critical race theory, that how are you then gonna celebrate Juneteenth?
Right.
So I imagine there are going to be a number of states that don't get it off.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's a direct contradiction to another bill saying we don't even teach this.
Right. It's
which is just
crazy.
Shocking that we can live in a world where I guess this is part of being a free world. Is that you can live in such a high level of denial. This is high level denial to me more than anything.
Denial, willful ignorance as well, I would say.
Yeah.
It's
just like how can you it's like this makes I just want to hear I wish I could hear this person's full explanation of the history of the United States from when people when the Europeans set down in what came to become the United States, obviously, and how do they see the history going? That's what I really want to know. How would you explain those? But obviously, you can't sit there and listen to hours and hours of BS from these people. So
hopefully not. I mean, there's some folks do, but those are Fox News viewers. But anyways, Jared, one thing that I think is really kind of funny is that with Juneteenth, it also has kind of a muddy history because there are even some states that didn't recognize, when they initially ratified it. I think it was Delaware, and I forget the other state now, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later today.
Texas
but it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I do want to mention one other thing, Jared, to change the subject real quick. I don't know if you heard about this, but I found this very surprising, Jared, and I just wanted to get your take on this. So here's the headline of this news article. No disciplinary action, and I don't know if you've heard about this. No disciplinary action for Germany captain Manuel Neuer over rainbow armband. Have you heard about this at all?
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter, but I didn't pay it any attention. What was that about?
Well, so that's the thing is I had that same thought. What is it even about? Because
it's who cares?
Well, it's a big
just
deal.
A captain's band,
right? Exactly.
I thought it could be any color. I thought it could, unless it's not. Obviously you can't have a swastika on there,
right?
But I thought it could essentially be anything,
right? I think so too. And the funny thing about the armband is that, I think I don't remember if it was Neuer or just the German, football federation. They made some statement, that it just represents. Right here, Neuer said he said it was promoting a good cause, promoting diversity and support for the LGBTQ community during Pride Month. But right here, so it prompted the European governing body, so UEFA, to investigate whether it could be viewed as a political statement. So I guess that was the issue. But then what's interesting then is I guess UEFA, this was tweeted out by Germany a couple days ago. UEFA have today shared with the German Football Association that they have stopped the review of the rainbow captain's armband worn by Manuel Neuer. I mean, I get that you're not supposed to be political, but when you have things like bordering the side of the field that say no to racism, I mean,
I do like the second part of that tweet as well. In a letter, the armband has been assessed as a team symbol for diversity and thus for a quote unquote good cause.
Right?
I love how it took after this official investigation. It has been assessed that it is for diversity and it is for a quote unquote good cause.
Right? Like what? Yeah. Like when I even read that at first, I read another news headline and it was like, something about Manuel Neuer was like in trouble, and I'm like, what did he do? Because he's a pretty, squeaky clean player. He's an upstanding, has a good image, public image, and all that stuff. And so then I dug into it, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is really over a stupid captain's armband that's rainbow colored. Mm-hmm. It's just so crazy. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I just wanted to get your take on it because it was kind of funny to even see that in the news nowadays.
Well, because the headline I saw was exactly that they dropped the investigation of it. And I'm like, I'm not even going to read into this because, like, who cares that he's even wearing this to begin with? Right. It's like, we need to see if this is political or not. It's like, well, what sort of investigation needs to be done to see if it's political or not? I don't understand what that investigation is.
Right.
It's a rainbow flag. Like, people's sexuality is not a political statement, you know?
No, it's their identity.
Right. It's like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. Yeah, that's just crazy. But yeah, and yeah. Anyways, let's move on. Do you want to do some untranslatables?
Sure, Chad. Let's do some untranslatables.
It's that time, Jared. Time for some untranslatables, which are idioms, proverbs, sayings, axioms that don't always translate on a one-to-one basis into English. And I have some fun ones for you today, Jared. I tried to keep mine a little bit Juneteenth themed, and I don't know if you know this, but do you know what state has the kind of the origin of Juneteenth, Jared?
I mean, I imagine Texas because they were the last state to.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So I got some Texan phrases for you. And we'll see if you can figure some of them out.
Catch those Negroes? Is that one of them?
Jesus, Jared. No. The first one is, I'm not going to even try to do a Texas accent, but this one is more than you can shake a stick at.
Oh yeah, is that a Texas thing?
Apparently, yeah.
More than you could shake a stick at. I actually don't even know what that means. I've definitely heard it 1,000 times. More than you can shake a stick at. When I hear it out of context, I have no idea what that means.
These are all kind of tricky when I just say the phrases, but here, let me give you an example.
Which is crazy, too, because I have heard it a million times.
Well, here's the example, Jared. I will read this in a Texas accent.
Well, hold on. Before you do, let me just guess first, because I want to try to guess this. It's just like more than you can handle. It's like you're biting off more than you can chew.
You know what? I would give yourself a ham horn. I mean, that's... Yeah. So here, let me tell you this example, though, because this is just hilarious.
I still want it. I do still want it.
I own more Willie Nelson albums than you can shake a stick at. Technically, it means a lot.
Okay.
Lot.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah, translation, a lot. So there we go. Do you have any legit untranslatables, some non-Texan untranslatables?
I mean, yours was a legit one, too. Why was yours illegitimate?
I feel like I don't know. I guess I prioritize the foreign language ones more, and maybe I shouldn't.
But English is a foreign language to
that's also a great point.
Portion of the audience that listens to this.
That's fair.
And more than you can shake a stick at makes no sense to us. So
so true.
Definitely an untranslatable.
Yeah, I guess you're right. You're right.
My untranslatable happens to be a foreign language to you and I. It's Cantonese, and it's chi sin.
Which means eating.
Oh yeah, right. I don't know
something?
why it was such a long part. Wait, say that again.
Is it eating something?
No, I don't think so. Glued wires.
Oh yeah, no, nowhere close. Okay, glued wires.
Some glued wires. Where might you find glued wires on a human?
On a human? Mm-hmm. Glued wires? In their mouth, maybe? Their braces?
No, something that's organic to the human.
Oh.
Not something additional. Glued wires.
Your hair?
That's actually a good one, but no.
Okay.
Glued
wires.
This person has some glued wires. Don't listen to him. He's got some glued wires.
I mean, so he's a liar? Glued wires.
You should probably cross the street when you walk past that person. Their wires are fully glued, and you'd never know what they're going to do.
So they're just crazy and dangerous and unpredictable?
Yes.
Is that what that means?
Just crazy. You didn't have to go
Just
that
crazy.
far.
Okay.
But
Glued wires.
But yeah, glued wires in the brain.
Oh, duh. Okay, that makes sense.
Is my guess. That's what I was assuming. At
Okay.
least. Maybe they mean something. Maybe they do mean hair. But I was assuming, like brain stems are stuck together and not functioning right.
Let me give you another Texan one, Jared. Mm-hmm. He's all hat and no cattle.
So you're telling me? So these are Juneteenth related, but none of them are racist?
I don't. Hey, I never said these weren't racist. These.
I thought you were gonna. I thought of some.
These weren't. These weren't Chad, like woke.
That would have been a hilarious. No, I don't mean woke. I mean properly racist ones. That would have been a hilarious joke.
Oh God.
If you here's some Juneteenth related
terrible
ones, and you just came with some hardcore racism. You're like, but what is that really? What are they saying when they say, like for example, catch a tiger by a toe? That eeny meeny miny mo has some racist origins.
Really,
it used to be catch an N-word by the toe.
Oh.
And they changed it to tiger. Once, So if you were to have come with some proper racist untranslatables for Juneteenth, that would have been hilarious. But I understand that you don't have the balls to make that joke, and I don't blame you for it.
I would like to not get canceled, even though I don't know if our
By
podcast
whom?
is even big enough to get canceled. But still,
the only person that could cancel you from that at this point would be
you.
Me. Yeah, and that's certainly not a cancellation at all.
Right. Anyways, this one, Jared, is all hat and no cattle.
Is that another way of saying someone's crazy?
Oh, shit. Well, Jared, let me use this example for you. Speaking of potentially racist things on Juneteenth.
Or it's like all talk, no actions.
Yeah. Let me give you the example, though, Jared.
Why is it racist, though? Please.
Well, I'll let you interpret it. This is written by the HuffPost, by the way. Here's the here's the example they have. That Barack Obama is all hat and no cattle, which is why I choose not to vote for him That's why I chose not to vote for him in the previous election.
Yeah, but
I could say that. I think that could
Donald
be interpreted
Trump,
as
he's
racist.
Genius. He's got all the answers.
He's a very. What did he say? Did he say he's a humble genius or some bullshit like that?
Yeah, he's a humble. Donald Trump is a humble genius, unlike Barack Obama. What's the untranslatable again?
He's all hat and no cattle.
Trump all cattle.
That's right. He don't even wear a hat. He just got a comb over.
My next untranslatable is Panamanian Spanish, which the untranslatable goes puro tilín y nada de paleta,
which means
all bells, no popsicles.
Oh, is this like all hat, no cattle?
What was that one again?
It's like your kind of like your all talk, no action.
Oh yeah, how crazy! That is exactly what it is. But that's a great, interesting thing. What was yours? Was all hat, no cattle. In
all
Panama,
bells, no popsicles.
In Panama, they would say all bells, no popsicles, which blew my mind. What does that mean? No connection. What's the connection between bells and popsicles?
Bells mean you're having a party, but you gotta have a popsicle to have a good refreshment.
Okay, that's a good guess.
I don't know. I have no idea.
I know you don't. Oh, I know you don't.
Idea.
But that's a good guess, and I respect it. And I'm going to go with that. All talk, no action.
There we go.
Let's who was all talk, no action for 2 years?
Who's that? Texas?
Yeah.
Well, not
They
only
were all
Texas,
talking
but there were a couple other states too.
What were the
that,
other states,
that
Chad?
didn't?
Because I'm
pretty
aware of Texas. I know Texas, they had to go into Galveston and tell, I believe, 250,000 plus slaves that they were free.
So I'm pretty
By the
sure
way,
it.
January 1st, while you're doing your research and just sitting there in silence.
Thank you.
January 1st, 1863, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all slaves. The proclamation wasn't officially recognized in Texas until 2.5 years later, or on June 19th. The name Juneteenth comes from the melding of June and 19th. You still have no answer to all these other states?
I know.
Can you just
one
admit
of them
that
was,
it's Texas?
Well, no, one of them is Texas, but there were two of them that just
You mentioned
didn't
Delaware
recognize.
before. How is that possible? Isn't Delaware in the north?
No, it wasn't Delaware. It's a different one. I'm
So
completely.
you just started our podcast with the bold-faced lies. What you're
did.
saying?
I guess
no,
I did.
Well, the first thing you said was just something that was completely wrong with no sort of proper research behind it. That's cool.
Well, no,
That's cool. And now you're still trying to prove me wrong that it's more than just Texas, as you just sit here in silence scrolling through Google and Wikipedia.
No, I had it in. I have. The problem is, Jared, I'm an idiot, and I have too many articles up.
Okay.
On
Well, we'll wait.
Juneteenth, and I don't remember which one it was. But anyways, yeah. So can you imagine though, Jared? I can't even imagine what it must have been like for the general to go down to Texas, and like, how did that ensue? Like after just, like, how do you just go and you're like, by the way, like, all enslaved people are now free. You know what I mean? Like, how does that actually work?
I understand. And I imagine that, like, who believes that also,
Right.
Like, I'd be like, this is some sort of trick, because there's no internet, there's no way to know what's going on in a city over, let alone Louisiana or Alabama or whatever, and it's like, honestly, I don't know what's going on in Texas or half of these states right now. So I could only imagine how easy it would be to just continue that on, And also, just because slavery was ended doesn't mean that these people that ended slavery still weren't racist. So, like, they're clearly in no rush
Right.
to be like, listen, these are humans. We signed this. We need to make sure that these humans are treated like humans. We have acknowledged that this is wrong, and we need to end this. They're like, we'll get to it. Listen, we got the road bill that we need to work our way through. We got this bill on healthcare that we need to work on for whites. We got this bill on taxes that we've been talking about as far as these slaves not being slaves anymore. How's that going to work? We'll get to the fact that there are still active slave things happening. And
Found
please.
it. It was Delaware and Kentucky. Those were the
Okay.
two states back in the day. I'm not
And it
crazy.
only took 10 minutes of silence.
Right?
Wow, that was worth it.
It was. Well, here, let me tell you. Let me tell you the history here, Jared. So, the first step was obviously, as you mentioned, Abraham Lincoln signing the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863. The proclamation freed all enslaved people in the Confederate States, but not those in the states that formed a border between the North and South. Between the North and South, slavery existed in two border states, Delaware and Kentucky. And they actually still had slaves for nearly, as you mentioned, Jared, not being in a hurry, for nearly 6 months after Juneteenth, because their state legislators rejected the 13th Amendment. So there you go.
But I imagine they freed the slaves before Texas. If I'm not mistaken, Texas was the final holdout.
It was. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you found that.
You are right about that. But yeah, that was bugging me. But yeah, it's so crazy to think about too. Like 2 years. Can you just imagine? Like I can't even imagine what was going on, especially in those poor enslaved people's minds. The
exact same thing that's been going on for the past generations. I don't think that's what I'm saying. I don't think there was any sort of, in my mind, there is no sort of knowledge to these slaves that slavery has been ended for the most part.
Right.
They're not allowed to read anything. They're not allowed to, I imagine, for the most part, leave unless under certain guidelines, And it's like, I don't think it was. I don't think it was any. I don't think it was. I don't think it was any different than it had been for the past 400 years. I think it was. I think it was just a normal day in slave world to them.
Right.
And so, because I don't think they were living. Not, and I'm not trying to make it seem like this is making it better. Obviously, I'm making it seem like they were still enslaved. But I don't think that there was any real way for there to be that information dispelled to the majority of enslaved people that they are now free.
Right. Right. And it was only one very small incremental step too,
Sure. So like when you say like I couldn't imagine what it would be like to be like going 2 years later. It's like it probably doesn't make that big of it. I don't know. It's weird to say because obviously the sooner the better. But to those people, I feel like it probably didn't even feel like it made that big of a difference. It's
right.
like I didn't even know. This has just been my reality for my entire life.
I've got to be honest too, Jared. Like it blows my mind that. Like, did it happen peacefully? Like, or did he have to ride? I wonder if, because it was a general, I wonder if he had to ride down with a damn cavalry and an army.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way he just rode down by himself. That seems pretty foolish. I feel like maybe not. I was gonna say I feel like we would have heard about it if it got violent. But why is there any reason for me to feel that way?
Right.
There's no reason for me to believe that because we've been the story of slavery has been shielded from Americans forever. So why would I believe that believe that they would tell us that there was some final fight to end slavery?
Right.
That could have definitely happened.
That's true. Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, that's.
But maybe they came prepared, and maybe they just they're like we took care of it.
Right.
That's what these marshals said. We took care of it.
Can I just say on a side note, I feel like if dudes in the military rocked facial hair like they did back then, no one would mess with us.
You think so? You think that's why people mess with us? You don't think it's our gross overconsumption
and capitalism
gross
and
meddling into
terrible
other
ideology
politics?
Could be some of those things too.
Our
maybe,
global
Jared.
capitalism that requires
right
these things to happen. When I was never in my entire education that I can remember, to be fair, taught about Juneteenth. I feel like I learned about it on my own once I started listening to podcasts, which was probably like right out of college when I started listening to podcasts. And I started listening to specifically podcasts hosted by black people.
Mm-hmm. I mean, as I mentioned too at the top of the show, I didn't learn about it until I was out of college as well. Mm-hmm. Which there goes to show you, I guess, these liberal arts schools aren't.
I even took an ethnic studies class. Granted, you can only teach so much. I'm not even blaming that class or him. You can only teach so much in a semester.
Right.
We did learn about critical race theory. That's the first time I learned about that. So I learned something that's a current hot button issue that I can actually speak about because of my college education. So
there we go.
That makes me feel good. That might be the first time I could do that, other than supply and demand. I know.
All the important things you need to share.
I understand supply and demand. I do understand that. So yeah, when did you learn, or how I should say, did you learn about Juneteenth? Was it through school?
No,
education.
I hate to say this, Jared. It was through social media. I mean, really.
I mean, that's fine. I learned through a podcast. That's
right.
not. I mean, that's essentially a form of social media in a way.
And actually, it came from a couple of my one of my ex-girlfriends. A couple of her black friends had posted a few things about Juneteenth, and I'd never heard about it before. And this was maybe 2 years ago or so. And I was like, "Oh, what is Juneteenth?" And then I looked it up, and I was like, "Oh, interesting." I didn't even know. It didn't surprise me though. About Texas. Being 2 years late on the, slavery train. But
yeah, and then to me personally, it feels like an extra slap in the face because we obviously have been celebrating Independence Day of the U.S. for however long it's been, a long time, at least 100 years, I'd imagine. And it's like we're celebrating we're literally celebrating Independence of White People Day. That's literally what it is.
Yep.
And that is, and it's just like, yeah, no, that's it. That's when we became America. And I agree with that. I do agree with that. But then we skip over the whole race and critical race theory talk of those
And
of that
genocide of
100
Native
years,
Americans and all that stuff. Yeah.
and that extra 100 years of when we were the free United States of America plus slaves. It's
Right.
like, let's just slide over that.
You know what is crazy though, Jared, about Juneteenth and about the 13th Amendment and everything. I did not know this, but after I did a little bit of reading about Juneteenth also though had a slightly different meaning for folks who lived in Native American regions, because I did not even know this, but apparently Native American nations, they actually had a slave trade as well. And Native American nations weren't subject to U.S. jurisdiction in the matter of slavery. So there's an estimation that there were about 10,000 people remained enslaved under a couple different Native American tribes.
At that point, I think your earlier question is a lot more valid about how do you deal with the fact that slavery has ended, but you're still a slave. Because I feel like at that point, you might know.
Right.
When you're in that, even within your own state, when you're in that level of the minority, I think then it's even more of a. But still, I imagine. I guess my question is, because I don't know the answer to, how long did that last?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And this article that I have it doesn't provide the answer. Sure. But what it does say is that Native Americans also adopted, I guess it was called black chattel slavery from Europeans as early as the 1500s. And this is according to a University of Pittsburgh history professor. And then there were 5 specific tribes that were the ones that really...
Call them out.
Okay, you want me to call them out?
Call them out.
The 5 prominent tribes, the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Choctaw, Creek, and Seminole tribes were all the 5 big players in the slave trade. And the reason why, Jared, of that, as it says, is the purpose was same as damn white folks, was to build wealth.
Yes, slaves. No, I understand the benefit of slaves for the slave owners. It makes sense. I was just thinking though. You said Seminoles and Chippewa. A lot of those are school mascots. And some some of them are school mascots in Florida, and it's just like there's like layers of racism on that.
Well, one of my
like
favorite
6 levels of layers of racism on that.
Well, Jared, one of my favorite memes ever is this guy who I'm pretty sure is Native American. I mean, he looks very Native American. He's got a shirt on that looks exactly like the Washington Redskins. But it's a white guy instead of a redskin, and then it says Caucasians on the top of it.
See, I don't know about the person you're talking about, but I do know famous sports commentator Bomani Jones caused a bit of a stir on social media a number of years ago for wearing that same shirt.
That's hilarious. That's awesome.
And I believe also the they had like the if I'm not mistaken, it has the like instead of the feather kind of, I think it's like a $sign if I'm not mistaken or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I feel like there's somehow a $sign included in it, but I don't remember.
Would make sense. So Jared, actually though, to answer your question, I do now have the answer for when it did end for the tribes. So slavery was officially ended in the Native American tribes in 1866. So a year later, actually, a year after Juneteenth.
I was right about the $sign, by the way. I'm looking at the shirt right now.
Nice. But as you mentioned, Jared, the thing with Juneteenth is just because, slaves were emancipated, did not mean that life was all, sunshine, rainbows, and roses for a lot of black folks in America. And what happened was there were a lot of things called black codes that were put in place in southern states. And a lot of these black codes were designed for, you basically do any small little infraction, you have an incredibly harsh punishment. And I'll be honest with you, Jared, when I was reading this article, I was getting angrier and angrier and angrier by the paragraph.
It's funny that there's a name for that because to me, that's just the law. That's because that's no different than right now.
Right.
Obviously, it's different. It's better, sure, than a year after slavery.
Right.
But like, that's the same thing that black people are dealing with right now.
Right.
So it's just so funny that there's a name for it because it's like, no, that's just the legal and like law enforcement system.
Well, here, Jared, if you want to hear a really messed up black code
sure.
from
Make
Mississippi,
me angry too. Share the anger.
That's right. Let's get the anger out, Jared. Let's get it out. Okay, an 1865 Mississippi statute gave courts the power to imprison any black adult who did not have lawful employment by the second Monday in January of each year. So if you fall on hard times on December 22nd, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, that's also yeah. I mean, that's ridiculous. But white people can be unemployed all they want or something. But that's also, yeah, that's ridiculous. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't even know. You're right. It does make me angry.
Yeah, but it really framed things more, Jared. I mean, we've talked about it on the pod before and off the pod as well, just how messed up our prison system and judicial system is, and it's very, very racist.
Sorry, go ahead.
But things like this, when you start to learn more about the history, I think you just kind of start to see how the dominoes start to fall. You know what I mean, Jared?
Yeah. And I think that's why things like making Juneteenth a holiday is so important, because there are so many people, the vast majority, I would say, not the vast, the majority of the United States, let's be honest, up until let's say 2 years ago, because I had no idea, because I think Juneteenth really got popularized last year, because it was around the time of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that stuff, and it really got popularized last year. But I feel like before then, the majority of the United States had no idea what it was. And, we see like now MLK has sort of become like the go-to, like a civil rights figure. That's the guy that even Republicans will quote at you and be like, well, hey, what are you talking? Well, I thought you were liberal.
I have a dream.
Even MLK said this, But I think some of that has to do with the fact that we have this day every day where you have to remember who this person is, and the name comes up, and you just are constantly reminded of what this is. So that's why I think like things like Juneteenth, which is arguably, I hate to say this, but like a bigger aspect of history than MLK, the fact that slavery ended, And it seems like and it's a specific. And I say it only because it's like a specific date that so much of the United States doesn't even know. We all know July 4th. Everybody knows July 4th, but nobody knows Juneteenth. And it's like this is a day that was a significant day for a large portion of the United States or people in the United States. And nobody knows it, and I think that now that we see the way people talk about MLK that don't even truly respect what he says, but at least they know who he is. Right. I think hopefully we could get that with Juneteenth, where like at least you understand another aspect of what's happening in your history, and how your country has been formed, even if it's sort of forced at you. That's the way it has to be, I guess.
Right.
Now, I have a question for you, Chad.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about what Juneteenth is, why we acknowledge it. How should one celebrate Juneteenth?
It's a good question, Jared.
I have answers. I know you're afraid to answer.
Good. Well, I think one thing that's really important when you celebrate Juneteenth is to. And I know this is going to sound cheesy and cliche. I almost said cheesy, or I don't know what I was trying to say there. But anyways, the thing is I think it's really important to just take a minute and to really reflect, that number one, we've come. I don't want to say we've come a long way because there's still a lot more work to do, but I think it's important to just take a minute to reflect and realize that not all Americans have had the same opportunities as others, and it's really important to take a moment to reflect. But other than that, I've got nothing, Jared. What are some of your recommendations for how to celebrate?
On Juneteenth, I feel like clubs and bars should relax their racist dress code rules. So get rid of the no Timberlands, no Air Force Ones.
Is that a rule?
Yeah, that is a rule in a lot of clubs. And there are a lot of no hoodies.
Is it seriously?
They have, yeah, I'm 100% serious.
Okay.
They have a lot of these racist rules that are clearly aimed at black people wear about how you should dress at a dress club. Get rid of those just for Juneteenth. Then you can go back to making up rules on why the black person's not allowed in your club. That's fine. I get it. Another one. No unwarranted traffic stops, I think, is a great way to celebrate Juneteenth. So if that car is not in any immediate danger to society, let it go. That's what I say. Specifically talking about black people, of course. Another one, barbecues, I think is great. To gather with people, especially for me, I'm talking from my perspective. My family was here this weekend. I feel like there's no better way to celebrate Juneteenth than a strong nuclear black family enjoying Father's Day and the mother's birthday together. It's a beautiful moment. A moment that...
And Juneteenth on top of it?
Exactly. A moment that white people legitimately fought to not have happen hundreds of years ago.
Yep.
Drinking a red-colored beverage is a legitimate tradition for Juneteenth. This is no longer
really
a ridiculous joke like the dress code,
like the traffic stops
and the traffic stops. A tradition that symbolizes perseverance and honors the blood that was shed of African Americans. That's what drinking something red represents. And on Juneteenth, on that night, red wine was drank. So.
There you go.
We commemorated. Otherwise, we would not have drank red wine. That's a lie. We would have done it either way. I have another one.
You got out the special red wine.
Shopping at black-owned businesses. Show your support financially. Or
not
I guess you could also say...
Let's be honest. I mean, not only businesses, black artists, black musicians, all of it.
I'd say they're businesses. They're
That's true. You're right.
I'd say being an artist is that's kind of a business as well.
Yeah, I guess you're
actually making it your life, your profession. So yeah, but yes, I agree with you. Support black business of all kind. Anything where you can buy a product, support is what I'm saying. Whether it be art or physical products or a service, hire a black lawyer. I don't know, whatever you got to do. Another one is museums. Here in Detroit, we have a great African American museum, the Charles H. Wright Museum.
I've never been there.
I went there I was in a business program that was sort of in high school that was sort of focused on minorities, and it was at Ross School of Business, and it was like a summer program thing for a couple weeks, and we went on like some field trips, and one of them was to that museum as well as the Ford River Rouge plant, and various other places in Detroit. So I did go there once, about a long time ago. I can't even do that math. A long time ago. I was like 16. 15, 16. And that's all I have. That's how I would celebrate personally.
So one thing I did read about celebrations is that I guess there was an article about a black girl who wanted to kind of throw a Juneteenth celebration, but and I think this was before the internet was really a thing. So she asked her great-grandmother how to do it, and her great-grandmother gave her some tips. And a couple of these were some pretty good tips, Jared. One of them was you want to, obviously food is a big thing for any gathering, but the key is for any solid, because it's in June, and as we all know, it's hot, usually in most places in June in the U.S., you want to make food that can sit outside for longer periods of time and not go bad. Right?
I mean, I did say that. I did say barbecue, but all right, please.
Right. Well, yeah, barbecue, but they mentioned actually more salads, salads, pickled foods.
Yeah, well, a barbecue is obviously not just meat. What other
speak for yourself,
tips did Grandma steal from me? Keep going. What else did she steal from me?
She said, like I spoke to the grandma. From what I was reading about in the article, they also mentioned kind of why I also mentioned the whole music thing was, make sure to have like some solid music on deck, some good feel good.
So, yeah. I don't know. You're
so
just
I guess all
repeating
the
what I
same
said.
stuff you're saying. Yeah. Yeah. I guess nothing new to add.
Yeah. I do have another one, though, if you want to hear it.
Yeah, for sure.
Make it easier for black people to get a loan on that day. Be like, all right, we'll go a little bit easier on June 19th, but then we're going to go back to being extra strict.
Let me give another one, Jared.
Okay.
How about you sign a bill that doesn't allow for gerrymandering or voter suppression?
Good. That is a good one. I have another one.
Okay.
Don't touch any black person's hair on that day.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a great celebration.
That's a good one. Yeah.
That shows that you really are listening and paying attention.
Also, don't tell people you don't see color. That's
yes. That's a great way. Another great way to celebrate. Don't say all lives matter.
Oh, yep. Don't. As much as I love Leonard Skinner, don't drive down the street in your diesel pickup with your Confederate flags on the back and your other Trump flag on the back.
Confederate flags at half mast. That's a great one.
Let's just burn those, please. Let's just put those on the
Listen,
grill.
Chad, I'm trying to be realistic.
Get it heated up to cook all of our delicious Juneteenth
I'm trying to be
food,
realistic.
Jared.
The best I could hope for is that, listen, at least let it scrape on the ground a little bit more when it's half mast hanging off the back of your F-250. That's the least you could do. Will you include and can we include Kid Rock into the Leonard Skinner thing?
Oh, that's a better example. How about this? Kid Rock followed by Ted Nugent. I think that's a better.
Yeah. If you're going to listen to country, just choose Willie Nelson on that day,
Yep.
Or Dolly Parton. They're a great Dixie Chicks.
Let's be
the
real.
Chicks, excuse me. They don't call themselves the Dixie
Hold
Chicks
up.
anymore.
First of all, the Chicks. Whoa there, Jared.
Yeah.
The Chicks.
Because they respect black people. That's why.
Fair. No, dude, you got to listen to Darius Rucker. If you're going to listen to country, you listen to Darius Rucker.
True. Hootie.
Or what's the dude's name? There was a really famous black country artist in the 60s and 70s. Not quite.
You double up Pride Month too.
Oh, what was his name? I forget the guy's name. But anyways, yeah, there's a lot of better choices. Yeah, Willie's not a bad one, but
Hootie or Lil Nas X.
Yeah,
those are the best options.
There we go. Perfect. One last thing, though, I did want to talk about today, Jared, with Juneteenth is the flag. Because as you know, I love flags. I think they're interesting to see what the symbols are.
Now, I see that flag. Mm-hmm. I was familiar with Juneteenth for a couple of years now. More than a couple of years, 4 or 5 years or whatever. Not familiar with that flag.
Okay.
That this doing research for this was the first time that I've seen that flag.
So let me describe the Juneteenth flag for all our listeners out there. So it's got kind of a blue or like a
that's purple.
In this lighting it looks purple, but I'm pretty sure it's blue.
Oh, okay.
Blue on the top and then red on the bottom, and the red is actually curved a little bit.
But okay.
It's not flat; it's curved a little bit, and that curve represents something. Jared, do you know what that red curve represents?
Oh, I see it. Okay, yeah, your color is really off on that flag.
Yeah, it's
because from what I see, it's like a dark navy and like a deep red.
Mm-hmm.
Chad's. Oh, yeah, right. No one can see that. I forgot.
Yeah,
we're not.
That's
doing
why
video
I was
anymore,
describing
people.
it. Yeah.
So I forgot we're not doing.
So yeah, but then in the center of the flag, it's got
like
a
arc.
star.
It looks
and
like
then
a
there's
sun going down or something, or a moon or something.
Okay, and if the sun's going down, what do we kind of call that? We say you look out into the
horizon.
So
looking into a brighter future.
There we go, Jared. So that's what that represents. The red
part
the North
is Star?
The better horizon. So the star represents two things, at least according to what I've been reading. So the star represents it represents the Lone Star, because there's only one star, which would be the Lone Star State is Texas
because they took so long.
Where it happened, I guess.
Okay.
But also that star just represents the stars being the representative of states, just saying that, every state now slavery has been emancipated. And then the little border around the star that kind of looks
burst is what they call it.
Thank you. It almost kind of looks like an old comic book, like if you punched or something like that.
That's a great example. Yeah.
But the burst, as Jared said, this represents new opportunities that lie ahead for black folks. So yeah, and then later though, Jared, in 2004. The date was then added to the flag June 19th, 1865. So older Juneteenth flags before 2004 will not have the date on them. But the date is obviously so you don't forget.
Sure. I kind of prefer without the date.
It looks nicer without the date.
It looks a lot better without. It looks like a flag. It looks like a great flag without the date. The date kind of throws everything off a little bit.
Yeah.
I personally wish that the flag would stay as it. I understand this is to get out the flag that has the date on it is to get out the awareness. I get it, but
here's the deal, Jared. So 2004 was when they put the date on. Let's hope by 2034 enough people will know about Juneteenth
Yeah,
we can
true.
get rid of it.
That's a great idea. I like that.
So there we go. We can revisit this on episode 10,026 when we do our Juneteenth,
Perfect.
looking back. So yeah. But yeah, I'm really happy it's a holiday. I hope it does bring more awareness, Jared. I think it's really important that we have discussions like this. That's why I was excited for today's episode as well. As I will say as a white dude, sometimes I am uncomfortable talking about, things about race and racism. But it's
As
worth,
you should be.
Yeah, but it's worth being uncomfortable for, and it's worth having those discussions.
Yeah. No, I agree. And if I don't get the day off here in this great state of Michigan for whatever reason, whether it be my company or my state, I personally am going to take Juneteenth off or take a day off. If it's on a Saturday, take that Monday or Friday off. That's my personal celebration as well.
There we go. I don't blame you. Happy to take that day off in solidarity with you and do some grilling or something. That'd be a good time.
I'm down.
Yeah, that would be a good time. But yeah. So anyways, let us know your thoughts on Juneteenth at untranslatablepodcast@gmail.com. You can check us out on YouTube and Instagram, Untranslatable Podcast. You can also slide into those DMs on Twitter, Untranslatable1, the number 1. And please, 5-star reviews on iTunes and Stitcher. Let us know how we can make this podcast better for you. So as we say here at the Untranslatable Podcast, dziękujemy, muchas gracias, shisha, and do svidania.